When I was 2 years old, my dad started racing, 1965, yeah, with a local rider, and they were the first ever all Manx sidecar crew, and they built their own bike in Peel at Peel Engineering, and off they went racing. So kind of from that time, I can't remember it exactly, I've seen pictures, but a bit obsessed with, you know, sidecars in general. Anything that had wheels, like they bought me a little tin trike like you had in them days, laying a plank of wood on the side and lying on it like my dad used on the sidecar, you know, pretending to do all that when I was as little as 2. So it just develops from then, doesn't it? If you're either are or you're not. Idolise your father, don't you? So you think, I'm going to be like Dad. But as I got older, I kind of wanted to be on the bars. He engineered in a similar way, you know. He was a far better motor mechanic than I ever would be. He thought a lot about the bikes he rode and, you know, put a lot in that way, and did chassis alterations and made their own chassis in the earlier days. It was something I learned from him, I suppose, I've took on. When my dad lost his life at the Ulster Grand Prix, I was 13. That was 1977. So 2 years later, I was leaving school as soon as I could get out of the place and going to work. My mother kept all my school books, and God, there's that many see me after class and red crosses and stuff put through, because all I was doing was no work and just drawing pictures of sidecars, motorbikes, anything, you know, anything to do with TT in general. So I'd already lined up a job at Empire Garage in Peel as an apprentice mechanic. And the week before I left school, which was at the Easter holidays, I took a day off school and got a lift up to the ferry at Douglas and went over to Liverpool, and I'd arranged to buy a sidecar outfit. I bought that with the money that came out of my dad's estate, what was left over, sort of thing. Like, each of us kids got left £500 each, which was quite a lot back then. But, you know, I remember going into the bank with my mum and withdrawing this 500 quid, and bank manager going, "What are you taking all your money out for?" I said, "I'm buying a sidecar." "You what? You're buying a sidecar?" "Yeah, buying a sidecar." So off I goes. I takes the day off school, and he's there with the sidecar. We rolled it on the boat. I gave him 450 quid cash for it. No engine, just put it in. And when we got off the other side, I got a tow from Douglas to Kirkmichael on a blinking tow rope on a car. Like, you wouldn't get that these days, would you? Of course, the following week I left school, took a lunch break, got one of the guys to give me a run back into the Kirkmichael Isle of Man bank branch. I goes in to see bank manager again, and he said, what can I do for you, David?" I said, "I need to borrow some money." He said, "Are you working yet?" I said, "Yeah, I've been at work this week." "Well, what do you want to borrow money for?" I said, "For an engine for my sidecar." "The sidecar you went and bought last week in Liverpool?" I said, "Yeah, didn't have an engine," he goes. I said, "Yeah, no engine." So after digging out of me how much I was earning, which was about 15 quid a week, he said, "Can you afford £5 a week?" And I said, "Yeah." So I borrowed 350 quid and went and got an engine for my sidecar, and spent the rest of the year working to pay it off. And that's how I went racing. That was it. I think anybody who grew up in the Isle of Man who wanted to be a racer, that's where they wanted to end up. Of course I wanted to do World Championship and stuff like that, but my passion wasn't really in that, and that's why I stuck out the TT so long, you know. I just a bit obsessed with it. That was a saga because the poor old bank manager was the same guy, Mr. Hewson, and I went in to see him and said, "I want to do the TT this year." He said, "Oh God, right, how much do you need?" I said, £3,500. This was in 1985. You know, £3,500? How on earth can you pay that back? "Oh, I can pay it back," I said. And I lied about how much I was earning, and all that sort of thing. And yeah, so 1985, what would that put me? 21 or so. So I bought the bike and everything, and thinking, how am I going to pay this off? And yeah, I put an entry in that got it sent back to me. So I rang up the then chairman of the ACU, Doug Barnfield, real nice guy, and he said, David, you just not got the experience. I said, come on, I've won national races, and I've been up front at Derby Road Race, and I've had a win in the B final of the Southern 100. I said, come on, I've got the experience. And he said, at 21, no, you haven't. And he just kept knocking me back, but I rang up every week for about 6 weeks, and then the final week, on the run up to TT, I rang every day. And on the Friday before it all started, they let me go off the back of the grid. Totally out of my depth, completely. And well, we were going all right. When we were going really good, and easily a top 15 run, but you know, and I was number 93, last bike away. So you can imagine how much traffic there was. And I had a good bike, it was fast, but it just didn't have the reliability, as many of them didn't back then. I always wanted to build my own bike, and so in the early days, the first TT bike I bought, it handled well, but it was extremely light and it broke a lot. So Eric Brigazzi from Union Mills, he sponsored me on his Windle chassis, which was far better. It was one of my favourite bikes ever, even above all the bikes I've built myself. It was my favourite of all time, really. We wanted to build a bike like it. When I say like it, with our own little twist of ideas to it, you know, Eric and myself. And we got to the point of getting a tube in and bending it and nearly there, and just couldn't get that last bit of cash really together to put the new wheels to it and brakes and stuff. So it didn't actually materialise at that point. The old Windle, it did get tired. I crashed it a couple of times and it got straightened, and it was kind of getting really tired. In fact, in 1987, we were leading the TT by 11 seconds on the first lap going up the mountain, and the rear wheel broke. The wheel rim itself broke and let the air out of the tyre, and it was like, God, I felt for Eric more than me, because, you know, we had no money, no real surplus money, and really shouldn't have been leading TTs at that point, but we were. And straight after that TT, Eric said, that's not going out in TT again, I'm going to have a different bike. Well, you know, I was on the bones of my backside, and Eric and his dad, they put the finances up to buy a Trevor Harrison built chassis. So 1988, we rode that bike, but it was so different. I mean, it was another country away. It was just such a different bike to ride. And I'd fallen in love with the Windle outfit. I really struggled to get on with the Harrison to start with. It was a great bike, don't get me wrong, and it was all down to me, just adapting to it. But we were pretty much as quick on it, but I just felt really strange on that bike. So over the winter of '88, we changed the bodywork to something I wanted, a more bullet shape instead of a wedge shape. We did lots of things to that bike, and it was more comfortable, and then we just made that little jump that we needed to combine reliability with, you know, getting a win. Yeah, that was a story in itself, because Colin Hardman was my passenger, and off we went to Cadwell Park a couple of weeks before TT on a long wheelbase bike, a Grand Prix bike, and we were due to make the last payment of that bike in person to Mick Burkham, who was a great TT competitor and World Championship rider. £6,000 for the chassis on its own, and we slotted our TT engine in. So there we were at Cadwell Park on a Saturday, and the Sunday we were going to go on to Donington and make the final £1,000 payment to Mick Burkham. Well, had a massive crash, absolutely huge crash, and completely wrote the bike off. All that was salvageable was the engine really, and maybe the brakes. It was completely written off. And Colin and I spent a night in Louth Infirmary, both of us with concussion, knocked about pretty badly. And we signed ourselves out the next day to go to Donington with my sponsor Eric Brigazzi and my friend Billy Quayle and the rest of them. And off we went, made the last payment. And there's me thinking, oh God, how am I going to even get the money to fix this? It'll be as much again as we just paid, like £6 grand. And then Barry Brindley kindly offered to take the written off bike to Switzerland, to where it was constructed, and get it fixed. Well, anyway, 2 weeks later we were at the TT and yeah, won the TT. Actually, the first time we finished both races, and we had a first and a third, and the prize money from that cleared the debt with the repair of the bike that we'd broke at Cadwell Park. So I wouldn't say I've got most memorable. They've all got a story which are easy to remember, to be honest. It's, I know there's a lot, 17, but I can remember each of them vividly. The only thing I can't vividly remember is lap by lap. You know, that sort of blends into the grey matter and goes away.
Molyneux and Patrick Ferrance will head them off as he revs that machine and spins the tyre off. They're there, snaking around everywhere, getting some heat in that rear tyre as he heads down towards Bray.
We were on the Kawasaki, same as what we're going to use this year. It was really, really reliable, that bike, but we struggled for speed.
Oh my goodness me!
It was no fault of the engine, it was just the way I'd built the bike.
So here we go, Dave Molyneux going for his 17th win. He's got it. What an achievement for the Manxman.
Didn't make top speed really well, so I ended up having to lower gear the thing, which then the byproduct of that is good acceleration, but no top speed, and it just made for a seriously hard ride. It was a hard-fought win, that. Patrick Ferrance, my passenger, we rode the socks off that thing. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this TT. You know, I'm just going in it with an open mind. Everybody who races wants to win. The realistic side of it says, well, you know, there's other fast guys out there now. You know, it used to be me that was the fast boy, with a couple nipping at my heels, and then I'd get beat occasionally and then pull one back. At 60 years old, it is hard to make it happen. It really is. The bike is really good. The new tyres are working really well. Who's Your Tyre, thank goodness for them. And it's just a change that we all have to adapt to. My passenger's really good, Jake Roberts, only 20 years old and full of talent, you know. The kid's in the gym every night after work, 5 days a week. He'll go in the gym for an hour, and there's a personal trainer there, really puts him to his paces, and now he's got to adapt to, you know, going at a high speed round here. I'm expecting to have a good ride, a safe ride and a fast ride. It really is down to how I feel on the day. A podium is definitely achievable anyway.